April 17th, 2006. This is Diehard Gamer Radio, Episode 5.
You are listening to Diehard Gamer Radio, the source for off-mainstream video game news and topics. Now your hosts, Murdock, Brian, and John.
Well, welcome back to Diehard Gamer Radio, as if this was a continuation of a previous episode. In last week's episode, we found out that Calculon...
And video games turn you into a mass murderer, and they're bad for you, okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Video games turned me into the man you see before you.
This is radio.
Oh, yeah. The man you hear before you.
And if that isn't enough to frighten you off of them, I don't know what is.
Okay, so first thing as we do in every show is corrections and apologies from the last show, but to tell you the truth, there aren't any.
Damn, we're good.
Yeah, we are getting really good, and I'm trying to watch what I say and trying not to make as many mistakes. So.
Oh, you perfectionist fool. I will foil you.
So we're going to go straight into our news bits, unless anyone has anything else to say.
Well, we could get in a mistake in right here on the beginning.
Yeah,
like, Duke Nukem Forever is going to come out this summer.
No! No!
It's all in the title, man. Forever.
Forever. We should start like a little pool on that, just whenever it comes out.
Oh, jeez.
As long as we get like year-long windows to bet on.
Yeah. I'm betting the decade of 2020.
So our first news bit is the DS Lite may be coming out in America in May. And it'll probably coincide with the new Super Mario Brothers. So not a real big surprise. We'll probably see a little bit more information after E3.
Question is, will they cut half the supply they're going to give us to feed their own starving gamers because they can't seem to keep up with demand as it is?
Well, seriously, I've been hearing so much about the DS Lite. I'm still always surprised it's not out here yet.
Yeah.
What the hell?
Actually, there is a European magazine that has a full-page DS Lite ad in it. But we have not received anything like that in the United States yet.
Well, it could mean a universal release between us and them.
I can't believe that with as many supply problems as they've been having.
True.
Yeah.
Also, it should be noted that a lot of the import game stores, like National Console Support and Play Asia, have a strict no-return policy on import.
The dead pixel.
Yeah, the Nintendo DS seems to have a very common dead pixel.
It's running a higher ratio than most portables, we should say, even more than the PSP.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's just...
Well, Nintendo doesn't take it back, so I guess that's understandable.
The demand is just so high that I don't think people even care.
A dead pixel really doesn't show up that often. It's not until you turn it on or turn it off that you even really notice it for the most part. So
my PSP has 2 of them, and seriously, I had to play like 3 different games before I even noticed they were there.
Okay. So our next topic is, for all of you out there who have a pulse, you can get a job at Square Enix.
Crap, I think that rules me out.
No zombies!
John is dead to the world as far as Square Enix is concerned.
So we have a link up on our website, and if you want, you can get a job at Square Enix. The only requirement is that you are human and alive.
Well, what's the job doing? Mopping floors?
It is. Well, it may be some facet of game development or something like that. I don't know exactly for sure, but if you want to break into the game business and live up on the poverty line in Japan, making $7 an hour,
you could be the next Shigeru.
Even speaking Japanese is not one of the requirements.
Yeah. No, actually, it is not. They
you can take courses while you're going there.
They brought over the ad in the United States. It's like, hey, you want to work for us?
We're desperate for gaming research and development, and any new ideas will not be put out.
In the back of your head?
Yeah. Johnny Mnemonic, sign here.
Our next topic is Bob Ross gets a video game.
It's a happy little game with happy little trees.
And a happy little squirrel.
This may be the best game idea ever.
Yeah, it is.
I don't know. Katamari was pretty good.
Well, yeah, I don't know if Bob Ross rolls around a ball and tries to restore the universe, but well, he might.
He probably paints happy little trees.
Yeah.
How much better than that can you get?
So this is coming out on the Nintendo Revolution, and apparently you get to paint paintings, and maybe a virtual Bob Ross will guide you into doing paintings, I guess.
With your magical Revolution wand and
Just kind of wave it around and make trees appear.
Hey,
if you push a button down hard enough, does it squirt the paint?
Yeah.
We're talking live performance art here, people.
Yeah, it's an optional accessory.
Yeah.
Hey, but think about it this way. The Revolution plus the Bob Ross video game is still cheaper than actually buying real art supplies.
By far.
Our next topic, and John will help me out on this one. There is frustration with Oblivion mod costs on Xbox Live, and what's this about?
Oh, yeah. I think everybody's gotten their chance to get pissed at this one. And Oblivion's been so incredibly popular, and they finally released the first mod for it. Of course, the first 3 mods they have were already done before they shipped the game, but we're still getting the chance to pay for them now. And the first one, $2.50 for a pair of palette swap textures for your horse, for horse armor.
Armor, yeah.
Not exactly the best value for money that's ever been offered.
So have the makers of Oblivion mentioned anything about it in forums or anything like that, or they're just going to say, hey, you know what?
Actually, I did read
Fuck
in
you.
my CGW that they came to the conclusion they really shouldn't be charging too much for these things. And
I think there's just been
read a
so
lot of
much
feedback.
negative press on this one right now. But it makes a lot of sense from a marketing droid standpoint, because they're like, well, we're not sure how much to charge for these, so let's start high.
Wasn't the same Oblivion mod on the PC cheaper?
It was $2 instead of $2.50. Of course, then again, if you bought Oblivion on the Xbox, you paid $10 more.
Yeah, so you can pay more for the game, you can pay more for the
we
mod.
know that, we know that a lot of Xbox users have a bunch of a disposable income. So
It certainly looks like they think so.
okay.
They are backing away from that, though. I think he has all the negative press. And at the very least, we're going to see cheaper bundle offers. I think the current plan is that they're going to offer the 3 currently $250 mods for altogether for $5 in the future.
Okay.
We'll
so the
see.
people that spent the $250 on this horse mod, do they get
I
kind
think
of a
they
discount?
get raped in the ass.
Okay.
Pretty sure.
Well, kind of fitting that it is a horse mod. Our next topic, or our next news bit, is anime is going to be downloadable on Xbox Live Marketplace. Now, this is Japan only for right now, but it is kind of interesting to see that they're coming out with some newer anime series that will be available for download.
Hey, they've been doing all that stuff with the Media Center extender. This ties right into all of that.
Yeah, and then for those of you who have Xbox 360s, there's an actual hack that will allow you to access Japanese content, and you can get the anime downloads if you check GameFAQs.
It's hardly a hack, man.
Well,
And seriously, you sign up for a free email account, say you're in Japan, get the free Xbox Live account, and then, amazingly, it thinks you're in Japan because you said you were.
well,
Who are you to lie?
yeah.
And who are we to check?
Yeah. So our next news bit in this may not be safe for work is Kingdom Hearts gets a vibrator. Now, this isn't an actual licensed Square product, but apparently there is a vibrator out that is named Kingdom Hearts. You can create your own Mickey Mouse and Disney joke here.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Yeah,
Watch where you put that vibrator.
What was that?
Ow.
How was that?
I don't know. I mean, after the Hello Kitty vibrators, plural, I'm not sure I can be shocked by this anymore.
Yeah. For those who really, really like the game and can't find the trance vibrator for Rez,
Yeah.
Here
They're
you go.
harder to find, trust me.
Damn you, eBay.
next news bit is pre-orders for the PlayStation 3 are already showing up at Toys R Us. So for $50, you can go ahead and pre-order a PlayStation 3, and hopefully you will actually receive a copy.
I want a guarantee signed in blood by the manager of the store.
Well, you know what's going to happen. They're just going to take your money, and then, some kid walks in with, all these pennies in his bank. It's like, I want a PlayStation 3, bastards, and gives it to him, so...
Oh, no, it'll be the 100 people that have already been there, signed up at every single Toys R Us, and are planning to sell them on eBay after it launches that are going to be in front of you and buy them all out.
Well, that's actually not too far from the truth. The bigger stores probably won't do this, so the GameStops and the Best Buys probably won't do this, but the smaller mom-and-pop stores are basically, when they get their PlayStation 3s, they're just going to turn around and put it on eBay because they can get 3-4 times the amount.
They also need to, because they're not going to be getting anywhere near the supply that the larger stores are going to get.
And they need to make their money
It's
wherever
not like
they can.
anybody's going to have enough supply to meet demand.
Exactly. So,
yeah, but if you're like a little mom and pop shop and you get like 3 of them, well,
if you're even lucky to get 3.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I'm not surprised they turn around and sell them for double the price.
Yeah.
It sounds like a good business policy.
Yeah.
Though, isn't Sony going to be kind of upset about that whole thing?
Well,
I figure the small stores will be too small for them to go after.
Yeah, but if Sony was smart, they might as well just cut out the middleman and just sell them on eBay themselves. And take all the money for themselves. They might as well.
They're not.
Yeah,
somebody
true.
could be working for them and selling under their name. And
it's probably that same guy that puts all that forum information. He's like, oh, yeah, the PSP is great. Hey, this guy's got 5,000 posts. Let's believe him.
I saw something on eBay this last week about, I think it was 30 360s for sale, and the starting bid was $30,000.
No, that was 100 of them.
Oh, it was 100 of them.
And they were stolen.
Oh, okay.
Somebody stole them off the back of a truck and put them on eBay, and then,
what a moron selling that many in one shot.
Surprisingly, the police found out about it.
How much bigger of a flag do you need to wave, Well, I don't have time to put up 30 auctions, I'll just, sell them at once. Buy a truckload now.
Yeah, a pallet of 360s on eBay. Can't imagine why they couldn't catch that. Next news bit, and we're actually kind of excited about this news. Concept Saga has been announced for the Xbox 360. So this makes it a little bit more enticing to actually buy an Xbox 360.
A third game for me to actually enjoy.
Yeah. And for those of you who aren't familiar with Concept, I guess the best way to describe it is like a collectible card game crossed with Monopoly is about the best way I can describe it.
That's pretty accurate.
It's a card game, board game crossover that just plays really well and is fun.
And they've only ever bothered to bring one of the games out here before, so everybody start praying now that they'll actually release this one here in the U.S.
And for those of you who have actually never tried Concept, it is a very worthy purchase, and it's a game that does not get a lot of talk. But it is a very good game. We all own it.
And the first one had a great price point, too, so it wasn't like they were, new game price.
If you find it now, it'll be under $20 used.
And it's worth it. So, next news bit, Gitaru Man Live hits the PlayStation Portable on May 25th. So now you can have your drug-induced weirdness in the palm of your hand.
Bonus.
Well, I would say that was all that hard before, but now it's just more animated.
Yeah.
And it includes a guitar.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And our last news bit is a new Castlevania game is coming out. Castlevania Portrait of Ruin is supposed to be released on November 15th for the Nintendo DS. But the only thing that we know about this game is the fact that it is on the Nintendo DS, and that's really about it.
I don't know if it just occurred to me, but it seems kind of odd that a lot of their portable Castlevanias always seem to come out October, November-ish.
Well,
is that just a good time for them to come
holiday.
out?
Well, it's not only that, it's Halloween.
Is it more probably based on the holiday than not per se Christmas, but more around Halloween and
perhaps. But any time is a good time for a new Castlevania.
I'm all for it. The sooner the better. But I mean, I've had to import a few of them, and I know we got them earlier, like July or August. But Seems like over here they always come out around November.
Yeah, and they haven't even announced a Japanese release date for this game yet. They've only announced the North American release date.
So is this a once-a-year schedule for all of this? They seem to be coming out pretty fast.
Yeah, it would seem so.
Portables, I don't think are that hard to do, though. It seems like they pop those out pretty quick.
Well, I think what it is that now that they have the engine, it's just a matter of just changing around the graphics and creating a new game. I don't see it being that difficult.
Imagine there's much of an engine for a 2D side-scroller these days.
Well,
I mean, people knock that out in a weekend.
Yeah, it's just a matter of splitting it between two screens and utilizing.
and making a good level design.
Yeah, which doesn't seem to be hard for most of the Castlevanias.
No, Konami is the master of level design. All right. Well, next we have our Famitsu scores. And we're going to start with the scores for the week of April 6th, 2006. And we start off with Odama, which is the strange military pinball game sim thing.
It's a voice-controlled RTS pinball hybrid. I mean, we've had a million of those.
Says it all.
Yeah.
Bakahon.
Nobunaga, what's that in the field? Looks like a giant pinball. Ah!
I don't think they had pinball back in Nobunaga's days. But
our next score is Guilty Gear XX/ for the PlayStation 2. That got a 29 out of 40.
I swear they're just pulling these names out of like a box. It's like just throw in a bunch of mixed up things. XXX/X X Ultra Super.
Yeah.
Somewhere in Japan, there is a temple where the game developers go, pray, and get a slip of paper with an X random suffix.
Probably comes out of a fortune cookie too. I mean,
or a manatee brings it to them. South Park reference.
Yeah.
Next, we have the scores for the week of April 13th, 2006, and we start off with a game that I'm really looking forward to.
Yeah, you and
and
me
that's
both.
Okami got a 39 out of 40.
That's pretty amazing.
So close. But,
it's perfect in my mind, and I haven't played it yet.
Yeah. And I personally cannot wait for this game to come out.
Well, Beautiful Joe was definitely interesting and a lot of fun, and it certainly looks like they've managed to nail a new visual style and give us some more new and unique gameplay design elements. How can that go wrong?
Yeah, so Clover Studio, thank you. Next one is 99 Nights for the Xbox 360, got a 31 out of 40.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, it's a little bit... that's about kind of what I expected. I was thinking it was going to be a little bit higher.
Yeah.
I'm actually surprised it is that low for a Dynasty Warriors style game in Japan.
Yeah.
It's just because it doesn't have Dynasty Warriors in the title.
Possibly.
But, 31 out of 40 is still a decent score.
Yeah, they can use all the press they can get for 360 games right now. So,
well, and Fanagram has been doing some good stuff lately. So.
Next score is Mother 3 for the Game Boy Advance, and that got a 35 out of 40, which is, pretty good for a role-playing game, and it's Mother 3. I just wish this game would come out in this country.
After reading the review for this and pretty much the basic breakdown of it, it's pretty one of a kind. It had to score well.
Yeah, you still need to play Earthbound. It's a great game.
It's so silly. I can't see how it couldn't be.
Yeah. Good luck finding a copy of it, but... next game, Dragon Ball Z Shin Budokai for the PlayStation Portable got a 28 out of 40.
That's about average for a Dragon Ball,
Yet another Dragon Ball game.
Yet another licensed game.
One of the few things that comes out faster than Castlevania's.
Yeah, that's pretty close to the truth. Our next game, Spectral vs. Generation for the PlayStation 2. This is a 2D fighting game. It's been talked about on some of the more active fighting game forums. Got a 22 out of 40, so pretty mediocre, middle of the range fighting game. I did like the character designs, but that's...
Yeah, I too agree. I was hoping for a little more out of it, but well...
I saw the trailer for it, and I can't say it looked like there was anything spectacular that stood out there. But, again, with a lot of fighting games, it's hard to tell unless you're playing them.
Yeah, so...
It's really hard to bring something new to that genre.
Next game, Rosen Maiden Dual Waltzer for the PlayStation 2 got a 23 out of 40, and this is actually based off an anime. So 23 out of 40, pretty typical for a licensed anime game.
Yeah. Maybe to the Japanese to bring out a wacky German name anime to a video game.
Yeah. And speaking about another anime game here, our last Famitsu score for the week of April 13th is a Tsubasa Chronicle Volume 2 for the Nintendo DS. Got a 25 out of 40, which is, again, average for a licensed game. And for those who aren't familiar with Tsubasa Chronicle, they basically take all the characters from the Clamp universe and put them all in one game.
Hopefully this isn't one where they take their clothes off.
No, I think they're clamping down on that.
Hi-yo! Brian will be here all night.
Tip your waitress.
Okay, we're going to go into our game topics now. And our first game topic is M-rated video game sales are declining, and we kind of want to know why. My personal opinion on this is that I think with a lot of the controversy that's been going on with Hot Coffee and a couple other high-profile mature games, the kids and their parents are, the parents are actually doing their job and watching what the kids are buying, and the retailers are looking at these kids going, well, I can't sell you this game. You're not old enough. So I think they're really starting to look at the ESRB ratings and enforcing them to an extent.
Maybe it's just because there hasn't been a new GTA game for a while.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, there's not a whole lot of mature games that really push sales.
That is true. They, I think they did a breakdown of how many games are released by rating, and they saw that I think it was there were more teen games than mature and everyone games, and that just may be the reason is that they just don't release as many mature games as, say, teen and everyone games.
It's also part of this clamping down is killing that market because a lot of these major retailers are refusing to carry these games, which kills half of the places you'd sell them.
Well, Walmart has been refusing to carry mature-rated stuff for a long time, though they will still carry GTA because they aren't going to pass up money.
Yeah, that's kind of an oddball exception. But for the most part, your big places, Target, Walmart, even Best Buy, are starting to kill this market because they refuse to take any responsibility for, carrying these games. They don't want anything to happen or be, blamed for any problems with these games because of angry parents or organizations or whatnot. So, I mean, it's not just that, but I mean, the whole market itself is not really a viable market anymore. It's hard, and we're seeing a push of these mature games to PC because PC isn't as regulated.
That's true, but also
PC stuff still has the ESRB rating.
Well, yeah, it does.
Well, yeah, but I mean, nobody's really watching the PC market. I mean, I just read an article the other day talking about how there's a huge boom of mature and overtly sexual games coming out for the PC because not as many people watch that. You can get them anywhere. I mean, it's not like trying to buy a console game.
Well,
it doesn't seem to be as restricted, I should say.
What are they calling a boom of sexual PC games?
Well, more now than ever. It seems like the market's pushing more towards that.
The Playboy Mansion game on that?
Well, no, they're talking like I think it was Virtual Jenna, and specifically like porn companies are pushing higher graphic games out now with their models because it's like, well, everybody's worried about the console market out here. We'll just sneak this in the back door, no pun intended.
That's all like download stuff, and it doesn't show up on store shelves anyway.
That's true. Yeah. I think maybe, I would doubt that parents are really watching out for what their kids are buying. But I think a lot of retailers have seen a lot of the fallout of what's happened, especially with Grand Theft Auto and a couple of these games, and they've become very, very wary of selling these games to minors. And plus, our good friend Jack Thompson and a couple other Congress people have sent kids to go into stores and see if they can buy a mature game.
Yeah.
And what was it, like over 60% of them were refused. And just
Even Hillary Clinton's jumping on the boat.
Yeah.
It's stupid. They don't even know what they're really jumping into. They're just jumping on the side of parents and the Christian rights organizations and, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
I think it's a lot simpler. I think there just hasn't been an M-rated blockbuster recently.
That's true, too.
The big company, anybody that produces GTA and puts out that kind of a mass and can make that kind of money can afford to take a hit like that and still recover, but a smaller game company couldn't.
Is it
could
Take-Two
mean the
still
end of
having
them.
some financial troubles with after the Grand Theft Auto debacle?
As far as I know, they posted their losses and moved on.
Okay.
Yeah, their stock took a decent hit, but they're still recovering and it's still floating. So,
The last bit of financial news for them was that they paid out a fairly hefty sum to the core GTA developers to keep them from leaving. But that just seems like sound future planning for them.
yeah, put your money where your stuff is. Back up the people that are helping build your company.
Yeah, because I think the next high-profile mature game that's coming out is Grand Theft Auto on Liberty City Stories on the PlayStation Portable?
Well, that one already came out, but they're going to be releasing Liberty City Stories on the PS2, I believe.
Okay.
Is that an expansion of the portable one, or is it the same game basically?
I don't know.
Okay. Not that any of us played Grand Theft Auto.
Well, I played the first game.
I played 3. I had 3 at home. It was kind of fun for a while. I don't know. It's it's hard when there's so many games coming out. It's so hard to finish any game anymore. So I'll use that as my excuse.
We should be more picky.
Yeah,
but we are capitalists.
So we're saying as far as M-rated video games declining, a large part of it is just the fact that there haven't been a lot of high-profile mature games, and also a lot of places are now really looking at who's buying games and really, not really enforcing the ESRB ratings, but being more aware of them, I guess, is a better way to put that.
And if you don't carry the game, you don't have to enforce it as much.
Well, that's true. Well, our next topic is when are video games going to get a good video game award show?
Not in our lifetime, buddy.
Nope.
It's like the same question where we ask when video games are going to get a good movie adaptation.
Well, hopefully Silent Hill won't suck, but...
Well, it's already wasn't directed by Yui Boll, so that's already one positive. It's about all I can say about it, but
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, award shows are kind of fluff anyway.
that's true. But the Spike Video Game Awards, when that came out, was actually the highest rated show at that time.
It got a lot of attention.
Yeah, the
it
ratings
was
on
the
it were
only
just
one
ridiculous.
of its kind.
No, there is G4, which is on G4, but it's along the same lines. It's just
I don't think
lot
half
of
as
fluff.
much money was really pumped into the G4 one as there was with Spike. And
Well,
Spike
isn't the
had that
viewership-
male audience too.
Isn't the viewership that can even watch G4 much lower? I mean,
sure
Spike
it is, because
it
G4
seems
isn't
to be a
as
lot easier
common.
to get in a common
Spike
cable
is on
package.
pretty much any cable channel, but G4 is only on Dish that I've seen.
Well, also G4 doesn't have the huge corporate backing as Spike, because Spike is part of a big...
G4 is kind of like the little brother, and if you've noticed, they've started playing things like Star Trek on there, and they want to be like Spike, but they're not.
Well, G4 is a television network that is suffering from a huge identity crisis because it doesn't quite know what it wants to do.
Just talk about games.
Well, the thing was that they were, for a while, a pure video game network, and then there was Tech TV, and then they bought Tech TV, and everyone was like, oh, cool, we'll just have, both stations, and it'll be at this one channel. We don't have to switch back and forth. But then they decided, you know what, let's just restructure it, get rid of half of the cool shows, and now they've restructured it even further and becoming a male-oriented station. They've become Spike TV Junior.
It was right after I got the Dish network. Coincidence? Yeah. I think not.
They're out to get you.
Damn you, G4.
So G4 is to video gaming as alchemy is to science, okay?
I guess that means we're not supposed to watch it, or we might die of mercury poisoning.
Stick with the internet.
The internets, yes. But the Spike Video Game Awards was a complete joke. It was
so set up from the beginning that some of the games that won on there, and
it was all, these are the most popular games, therefore they should win. That was
most popular by whoever called in and said, "Yeah, I love this game."
Was it
there was no
by
really
public vote, or were there judges?
Yeah, you could. I actually did this. I went to their website and voted on the games I liked, and you could tell that the games that were winning were games that were popular amongst like 12 and 13-year-olds, and it was just they were the only ones voting, I guess. It was taken more as a joke amongst the older crowd.
Well, not only that, but a lot of the games that were available for voting were ones made by American developers and published by American companies.
Biased.
And a lot of the Japanese companies, a lot of their games weren't even shown. So a lot of God of Wars, a lot of EA games, but not very few titles by Nintendo. I think one of the only Japanese game that won like a couple of years ago was Katamari Damacy for being like the most original game.
Although I should mention that God of War was an American studio, it was published by Sony, so not entirely American.
So video games are probably never going to get a decent award show. But is that
say never? They'll get better.
Well,
more attention,
can't get
more
any
people
worse.
Watching it.
No, it could get worse because remember, with the Spike TV Awards, they don't really focus on the games too much. It's more of just musical acts and whoever is the flavor of the month actor.
Yeah, and they're the kind of guys that go to E3 for the booth babes. It's
or the swag.
Yeah, it's both. I mean,
hey, the industry gets big enough, and we'll see the equivalent of the Oscars with the different development studios, voting amongst themselves.
But it's got to be more.
I don't know if I want to see Peter Molyneux, have a acceptance speech and it be like 5 minutes long. I'd like to thank my texture artist for everything that he did for me.
It's got to literally come to that point where it's actually broken down to this designer versus that designer and these ideas and these concepts.
Yeah, but if that's going to happen, then it would have to be something that would be created by the industry and not some huge network.
I think that's the only time it's ever going to become good, is when it's something that's done by people themselves. It's not taken on by some outward channel that's looking to grab more, viewership.
And when it gets big enough that, there's enough people watching it and the companies start seeing it as a marketing tool, it'll probably happen.
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to happen for a long time.
So, no good video game award show for us yet. Next topic, GameStop says fuck you to people who reserve titles and put money down on them. And this is not a new thing. What it is that you go into your local GameStop or EB or whatever, and you put money down for a game, and they are supposedly supposed to reserve it, and when the game comes out, they just turn around and sell it to whoever comes in.
The specific story that inspired this, though, was one particular store.
Yeah, but this isn't a new thing. This has been going on for quite a while now.
It's probably more widespread than just one store. I mean, I wouldn't be at all surprised.
I remember having a very hard argument trying to convince the manager to sell me their last copy of Oblivion for the PC, and it didn't happen. So it's certainly not all of them.
So it probably just depends on who's running that GameStop. So it's probably some supervisor or manager who's kind of low on sales and just says, you know what, I just need to make a sale regardless.
Or, they're just trying to make their customers happy, and they look over it and they've got, 10 copies reserved, and they know that, people are only going to come in for 8 of those.
Well, yeah, but that's no excuse to turn around and sell copy.
Yeah, it kind of kills your loyalty base there. It's but then again, I mean, if you've got a popular enough game and 10 people are going to come in right off the street and buy it, well, I mean, who needs loyalty?
I'm not even saying it's right off the street, though. I mean, it's that people reserve them and they don't come in to pick it up. And you've got somebody else who's right in front of you who wants it, and, they can run the averages on it. Sometimes maybe they screw it up, but...
I don't think they should run the averages. They should do everything they can for the people who actually put money down on it, because technically it's their copy. They just reserved it ahead of time. they should
They've
just
made a
turn
down
around and
payment
sell
on it.
Yeah. I don't think they should just turn around and sell it.
If
just
they did
simply
that in the
because they
home
figure
market.
that, oh, well, 20% of these people won't pick it up to begin with.
I can see why people would get upset if they reserved it, came in and there wasn't one there. But I've never had that happen. I've reserved a lot of games, and they've always been there. GameStop saying fuck you to people who reserve titles.
Okay.
And you saying they should always hold on to them for the whole 2 days.
At least
I'm saying
for...
I don't really care that much as long as they have them there when I want them.
Okay.
Well, now there's a capitalist attitude for you. Go, man, go.
Okay. Our next topic is why does the United States government seem to want to regulate gaming more strictly than movies or music? And this whole political mess has been going on for a very long time, and we're not going to hear the end of it. So why do you think the government wants to regulate this? I mean, is it just because it's a new medium? And
It is.
This is
that's
always
exactly
what's
it.
happened?
It is the newest medium out there. It's the newest thing to pick on. You know, it was rock and roll back in the 40s and 50s.
Do you remember when we went through this with rap music? Because we're going through it again.
Oh,
Yeah.
and it's the same guy.
I swear they just
Literally, it's the same guy.
Yeah.
Jack Thompson was
Yeah.
part of the Two Live crew.
fiasco.
Yeah.
Yeah. I swear they literally are just looking for something new about every decade, and oh hey,
That
kids
must
are
be
really
what's,
into this funky stuff. Let's stop this.
That must be what's corrupting the youth of America, because we were all perfect and never had sex or did drugs or did any of that. Why are our kids so messed up?
Yeah, apparently the human race has survived for so long due to spontaneous generation. Okay. So, first of all, with the U.S. government, they have recently, and I think this is still going on, they are doing a study through, I believe it's the Center of Disease Control, regarding the impact of video games with young children.
What the hell does the CDC have to do with it? Are they just bored chasing mad cows and
well, what my
bird flu?
understanding is that they don't have any hard numbers or evidence to back up all the bullshit that they've been saying. So they need to have something to back
the
up.
disease.
They need something to back up their claims.
Oh
And
man.
there's been contradictory studies on both sides, so I can see why they'd want to research it.
Well, you know, there's no real
I just-
third party that you can pull this from. You're really grasping in the air.
Okay.
There's some reasonable studies that have been done that have shown some somewhat useful information. It's just they've been contradictory.
I did a thesis in college during, I believe it was English 202. No, speech writing 202, about how positive video games and how video games could be used for positive things. And there was just as many good reasons to have video games as there are negative reasons. I mean, they helped rehabilitate people in hospitals. They help cognitive brain functions, thinking, moving, you know. I mean, it's whoever wants to make something of it will make something of it, whether it be positive or negative.
Yeah, I think people, just generally speaking, they have a preconceived notions of what things should be, and they're just going to find whatever it is that they need in order to prove that their reasoning is correct, and then use that reasoning to influence everyone else.
Because, goddamn it, if I hear "for the children" one more time, I'm going to fucking snap and kill somebody. And it's not going to be because of video games either.
But it won't be a child because they play video games.
But it won't hurt because you've played video games.
Yeah. If anything, they'll have
That's
taught
true.
us a better way.
Yeah. See, what I need to do
Start
is throw
clicking
a
on
barrel at
dialogue
the kid.
entries.
I'm going to whip out this chainsaw here, my laser pointer, and
I'm going to shoot at the sky and wait for a power-up balloon to show up, and then I'm going to get him.
it's hiding up in this tree. I can feel it.
Yeah.
Oh, God bless you, Mario.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for video games, I would have never learned to step on mushrooms.
Yeah, before we used to just smoke. Oh, whoa, hey.
Well,
Drugs are bad.
Drugs are bad. Okay.
you know, I can't prove this, but if it weren't for drugs, we probably wouldn't have some of the games we would be playing.
How else did we end up with Pikmin? Seriously.
Or Rez.
Or Katamari.
Huh?
Sure, they pulled that out of somewhere, and it wasn't a normal orifice.
I can imagine a proctologist going na 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 na. Why, look, a rainbow.
He's just a little too happy about his work.
Yeah.
He really gets into this.
Hey-oh, rainbow.
But back to the topic at hand.
Do we have to? It's kind of a depressing one.
Well, it's not really depressing. It's just kind of the sign of the times, unfortunately.
Seriously, I don't want my video games to get regulated or have like a game code authority stamp for them. That would suck.
You know, this would be over in a second if they just got the MPA involved in this. You know, and I think part of the reason that a lot of this is happening, well, the one thing is that video games don't have any type of lobby. And they're actually trying to start a video game lobbying group through the ESA.
Yeah.
And that's happening. And then there's the Video Game Voters Association, which their website, I think, on the first week it was out, got something like, what was it, 20,000 people sign up, or some ridiculous number. Was really high.
I was one of them.
I was one of them too.
Yeah, I think we shot that link all around.
Yeah, and I think what it is, and like you said, Brian, a lot of it has to do with it's a new medium. They don't understand it. I mean, this has been going on for years. I mean, you know, way back in the day, it was, you know, dancing was bad, and it was the devil's work.
You notice
and now
everybody
it's
that knocks these
records.
mediums are people that are beyond that generation. I mean, if you had like 50-year-olds and 40-year-old people that are knocking it right now that actually had played any of these games, had tried to expand their mind in a positive way instead of just jumping on the boat and saying, "Oh, this is harming kids, I heard, so I'm going to go against it."
Well,
you know,
all they know
if
about
it was
video
even
gaming.
constituents of our own age, I'm saying, I would put something into it, and I would at least give them the benefit of the doubt. But these are people that don't know anything about these games other than the negative things they've read or heard or seen.
Well,
All they know about video gaming is that in GTA you beat hookers with a bat and steal their money. That is like the sum total of their knowledge of video gaming.
Yeah,
If that's all you knew about it, that sounds pretty bad.
Yeah, one video game ruined the whole concept. You know, I mean,
Not even the whole video game, because seriously, it's not like GTA is all like that, or that's like the only thing you do. It's not a hooker beating simulation
no.
here.
I mean, and what is that compared to playing certain FPSs and going around blowing things up and cutting them with chainsaws? I mean, is that really that horrible? I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying, you know.
well, and also with all the violent video games, why is the crime rate low? I mean, the crime rate's very low this time. According to a report that I read, the crime rate is actually the lowest that's been for a while.
And I haven't read an article in
Just
so
like
long
how
on how
crime-
sex and violence on TV has been, you know, horrid lately and blah, blah, blah. It seems like that, you know, it seems like the media is also jumping on the boat, of course, too. And it's like that's just the new thing. Everybody's getting on the boat.
And
They're probably happy to have somebody to blame, but it's not them.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, good point.
Not our bad.
Yeah. But hey, this guy said it's evil. Evil!
but I think also another part of it, and why all these Congress people from all these different states are getting on the bash video games are bad bandwagon, is I think that even though that pesky Bill of Rights and the Constitution get in the way of their unconstitutional video game laws, I think it's just more of they can turn around during election time and go, well, you know what? I tried to do something for the children.
For the children.
For video games.
Children.
They're all like,
I think I have to kill
Congressional
somebody
Sally
now.
Struthers out there.
I'm
You
pretty
know?
sure I've got to kill somebody now.
I think it's just a lot of just lip
Save it for
service. They're
GTA.
just going through the motions, but they're not really doing anything.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's just, this is all going to blow over.
You really think so?
It's going to. I mean, look how long it took with rock and roll. You know, there's always going to be something every couple of decades, every decade even in some cases. And the way we're moving forward so fast technologically, you know,
And there's-
it's going to be the next new thing. It's whatever kids are into and gets any kind of negative publicity at all is going to be jumped on. And that's just like you were saying, whether it be an election year or whether it be something that just looks good on their record. Yeah.
We should do a podcast like 30 years from now, and we can go like, well, I don't really like those hollow crystals that children are using nowadays. I think they're a real bad influence.
Have you tried one? No, but I just don't like them.
Yeah.
Jerry next door said they're just horrid.
Yeah.
I hear all you do in them is beat up stim junkies and take their money.
Yeah. Moving along.
So I think our conclusion with this topic is that the United States government just feels that they have to regulate it because it's just a new medium. They don't understand it. And until we can get them to understand it, they're just going to keep pushing it until it gets to the point where we have a lobby group or something that can throw around money, which seems to be the only language that the government understands.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we would like to support your library fund.
Yeah.
Well, I think I can vote this way on this bill.
And it's not like the industry isn't trying. I mean, we've got the ESRB. We have
it's just going to take
better
a while.
Compliance. I mean, we're getting there. We'll meet in the middle somewhere, and hopefully that middle does not involve me not being able to buy the games I want to play.
Or having to export the games and then re-import them to buy them, or some god-awful method that costs more money.
Yeah, could
Games
be
aren't
worse.
getting any cheaper.
Could be
hope
worse.
for
We could live in
region-free.
Australia.
Yeah. Poor Aussies.
The worst place to be a gamer.
We feel your pain.
Our last game topic is we want to quickly touch upon video games as art. And this time we want to talk about is the medium that games are stored on hinder them as art. Now, the way this works is that art in general can be enjoyed from generation to generation because of the medium it's on. It's usually on canvas or on something that doesn't need any type of technological help to view. I mean, you just put it on the wall.
Skipping over
whatever.
celluloid here.
Well, yeah, celluloid. You understand.
Something of substance that can be just hung on a wall
Yeah,
or
but
something.
with celluloid, as you mentioned, celluloid is being moved from one piece of technology to another. It's going from the projector to DVD to all these different types of mediums. But with video games, it's a little different because with a lot of older video games, to experience them, you have to actually either have an emulator or you have to have the original hardware to run these games. And what I want to ask is the medium that the games are on, does that hinder them as art because you can only view them on certain things? And say like maybe 15, 20 years down the line, road, and you want to experience, say, Shadow of the Colossus or Rez or any of these other games that we mentioned, because they're on a specific format and a specific system, if there's nothing that is in emulation or there are no systems around or whatever, is that going to limit them as a work of art because you can no longer see them?
I think this is the same discussion we just went through, really. I mean, I think it's the same thing a lot of new art forms have gone through. I mean, just like when movies came out, people thought they were trite entertainment that was just corrupting the morals of the masses. And now, I don't think you're going to find anybody that can argue there can be artistic films.
Who's to say we aren't going to see classic collections in the future that have over 2 gig of game on a HoloCube or what have you, or Crystal that is all of Shadow Colossus or everything this company made? Or I mean, we've seen that with Atari collections and Capcom collections for all the old arcade games. I would argue, though, that some of these older games, specifically the arcade games, you are losing a little bit of the experience because the arcade itself was such a community meeting place. I mean, you could go play the games, hang out with friends. It was a different experience, and a lot of the game cabinets were different, like Battlezone. It gave you a little more feel, kind of put you more into the game. You don't get that as much from emulation. You got to kind of go back to your memories and remember how cool it was when you first played the game on the arcade, but at least they're still being emulated.
So just the atmosphere of playing the game in a certain place added to its artistic value, not just the game itself.
Yeah,
That's
I'll
like
go further
saying
into
you
this in my
can't
game
really
review.
experience the game unless you're playing on a broken joypad or something.
Well, I'm not saying that necessarily, but there's some really neat cabinets out there. I mean, you can't play Silent Scope at home to any effectiveness, not like you could on the arcade. It was just so neat to have an actual rifle in front of you you could see through the scope. It made the game more realistic for it.
Well, that's something where, I mean, you just flat out the controller is the game. And
That's
if you
what I'm
don't
saying.
have
There
that,
were
it's
certain
not there.
arcade games back in the day that were like that, and it's just you're not
But
going to get that experience ever again.
Do you think, say, even 10, 15 years from now, and say you can't find the cabinet anymore, and there was a game that you considered very artistic, just because of the fact that you can't find the hardware to run the game properly or find the hardware, you can't experience it as art anymore because it's not available? Do you think that companies are going to always bring out these old games for people to enjoy, or...
No, not always, but the more popular ones will come out in collections. They'll keep continuing collections. I mean, how many times have we seen a collection come out on multiple systems? They're even coming out in the PSPs and the NDSs still.
The emulator scene seems to have been very solid. I mean, there are groups of people that like these things enough that they've been able to make them all work. And
So-
there's a lot of very smart people right now that are saying this is going to be the last physical media we'll have, and everything will be on the network.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping we'll get to the point a decade down the line where, we'll actually be able to download anything we ever wanted to play.
And we'll put on some helmet with some oddball visors that just, maybe have a different form of gameplay for us to enjoy, or...
You get the
Who
VR
knows?
representation
Yeah.
of your spiffy cabinet.
Yeah. You could be in the arcade sitting in front of your PC, and you just don't even know the difference anymore.
Yeah.
So who's to say? I mean, the technology is moving so fast that it's entirely possible they'll actually be able to recreate that feeling. Who knows?
I mean, is there any platform right now that's truly dead?
Well, there's
There are a
been
few.
multiple
There
consoles,
are,
I'd
there
say.
Are there
but-
a few multiple consoles that are so obscure that they've never been emulated?
But some of these companies are still finding ways to get their games out on newer consoles. I mean, you look at what Sega and TurboGrafx are doing with the Revolution. It's just a matter of time before a company comes back and reinvigorates the old games again in a collection, or gets you to buy them again in a different way and enjoy all over again.
So
on
the
a new
medium is
console.
not necessarily going to detriment games as being art. It's going to be more of just, as long as the company decides whether to go ahead and keep releasing these games, or getting it to a point where we can enjoy them at any time. And like you said, it's probably going to be through some network interface.
I really wouldn't be surprised if copyright ends up being the biggest problem. The
Yeah.
stuff you can't find because there's no company that owns it anymore, and just the legal issues around that.
Well, then that goes to MAME.
Yeah.
Well,
You just have to hope there's some underground where you can
Yeah.
find it all illegally.
I think there'll always be an underground out there for it. There's always an underground for gaming. It's kind of one of those neat things that people are always striving. It's just like hacking in the beginning. There was always an underground movement of people just wanting to learn and understand and figure things out. And it's the same with video games. They want to bring back the old things they loved and the things they still enjoy playing. And if somebody else isn't going to do it, I mean, the same could be said for movies and TV shows, Somebody will put it out there, they'll find a way to copy it, get a copy for themselves, even if somebody's not going to release those rights on DVD. It happens with everything.
okay. All right. Well, this will probably be our last topic on video games as art for quite a while. I think we've touched upon most of this subject.
Squashed parts of it, too.
Yeah.
Well, we probably need to be smarter to get any further, or at least have taken some art history classes.
Yeah.
Or video game classes.
We don't need classes for video games.
Well, I mean, like design and whatnot,
Well, I think we've played enough video games to know what works and what doesn't.
Yeah.
Street Fighter works. Rise of the Robot does
Doesn't.
not work. Not hard.
Yeah. A wiener is you.
All right. Next, we're going to go into our game reviews. And I'm going to start with Dragon Quest VIII for the PlayStation 2 by our good friends at Squeenix. Dragon Quest VIII is another role-playing game in the long line of really solid role-playing game titles. And this version of Dragon Quest VIII is excellent. It is very, very good. And the reason it's good is because they didn't do what Final Fantasy does, where they reinvent the system and try and make things fancier and add more things to the system. What Dragon Quest VIII did was they said, you know what, we're going to simplify everything back to its roots, and we're going to do a traditional role-playing game, just real kind of bare bones, very solid old school feel, and it works great in Dragon Quest VIII. The basic premise of the story is you play as the hero, and you can name the hero whatever you want. And originally, you have a few quests to do, but as you go further into the game, you actually find that there's other people that will join you in your quest for various reasons. But the main goal is they all have some sort of thing that they need to solve in order to get through the game. And I do apologize that I am being very vague, but it's almost that I need to be vague, because if I say anything more than that, I'm going to have some huge spoilers in the game. But there's a huge wizard by the name of Dulmagus who has been terrorizing the country, and eventually it's up to you and your trio of heroes to put a stop to this evil wizard. Now, the graphics are cel-shaded, and the game moves at a very smooth pace. Beautiful, beautiful animation. The music is excellent, very orchestral, classical music. It doesn't seem like it fits in a role-playing game at first when you hear it, but when you actually get to the battle screens and you hear like violins and trumpets and woodwinds and everything, it works. It really, really works. The game is perfectly balanced as far as difficulty goes. It's very traditional role-playing game, so if you do not level up, you will get spanked by whoever the next boss is. There's a lot of stuff that you can do in the game, and there's a lot of optional mini-quests that you can accomplish, and none of it is required to actually finish the game. So it's not like a lot of role-playing games that if you don't do X mini-quest, you won't be able to clear the game and get a good ending. They're just there to add to the game, and that's pretty much it. The voice acting is excellent. It is very, very well done. They got actually British actors to do all the voice work in this game. And what they did was when you hear like the voices and everything, some of them have Cockney accents, some of them have traditional British accents, and it seems a little out of place at first, but it really works, and it adds to the atmosphere. Almost it feels like a foreign country, because you don't hear the accent in a lot of games, but when it's added to this game, it almost feels like it has this otherworldly feel to it, and it's just a great game. Like I said, graphics excellent, music excellent. The gameplay itself is just real solid, traditional role-playing game. Typical menu-based. You choose whether to attack, defend, use a special skill, whatever. But there is nothing that is wrong with this game. It just runs beautifully. I've had no problems with load time. I've had no issues with it. Just an excellent, excellent game.
And the art looks suspiciously like Dragon Ball Z,
and that is
which is a very popular art form. So.
Actually, it is the same character designer. It is Akira Toriyama who does the character design for Dragon Quest.
He did Dragon Ball,
Quest.
And he did Dragon
Quest.
Yeah,
he did Dragon Quest, Chrono Trigger, lots of other games. But the style works. It really fits, and it looks like an animated cartoon. It really does.
So what kind of rating would you give this?
I'm giving it...
I can guess.
Yes, it is getting...
Hey, I was just setting him up.
It is... I'm going to give Dragon Quest VIII a 5 out of 5. It's that good. And I don't know if any of you guys have played it. Buy it.
It's RPG crack.
Oh, it is. It's really that good. Plus, it comes with a playable demo of Final Fantasy 12.
I've heard you have to play through the first 5 hours before the plotline actually picks up at all.
It's a quick 5 hours. I'm
not hearing a denial here.
Yeah. I had no problems going through the first 5 hours of the game. I mean, it was very enjoyable. And it's a funny script. Very funny.
How can you beat Cockney accents?
Well, yeah.
Apparently you can't.
No. So, John, you have a game review for us?
I've been playing OTOGI recently.
Okay.
Which released as a bargain title for $20, 2-3 years ago now?
Yeah, I think it was 3.
It's a little old. But I came back to this one, and I'm just once again impressed at just how good this game is. It's a third-person action title where you play a character named Raiko, who is the last member of a sort of pseudo-Chinese-Japanese clan. We kind of blend the different feelings together. And he is coming back to seal this demon seal that was keeping the world safe. There's some interesting twists to the plot line and some characters that kind of come out, but mainly what you're playing an action-adventure title for is how cool is it to hit things with a sword. And this is a game where it's really cool to hit things with a sword. One of the reasons why is because the difficulty level for the game is very well adjusted. It's a continuing challenge throughout. It has some RPG mechanics behind it so that if you get stuck at a point, you can actually go back and try and do better on some of the earlier levels and earn some more points out of them to go ahead and make the later ones simpler. So you can trade time for skill, basically. You can also buy a variety of different weapons that allow you to take different approaches to things. And the combat system itself, while being simple and straightforward, basically has a light attack, a heavy attack, a magic, a jump, and a special dash that you can do. But they work together in combination, and it's very fast-paced. That keeps it all exciting, interesting, and just flows well throughout. One of the unique features of it is in all of the levels, the worlds are very destructible, so that you get a lot of feedback from it. You actually feel like you are an impressive, powerful character, as you'll, get a good whack on somebody, they'll go flying and smash into this wall that'll break and fall apart. Or, you'll swing at this pillar and you'll take it out. So it actually feels like you're having an impact on everything. The style throughout the game is, an interesting kind of blend of Asian themes. It's something that really haven't seen a whole lot of. It's probably simpler than some other things that have been done. The fact that it's destructible really helps make up for it. As you go through the game, there's a variety of different mission goals that you encounter that are all interesting and serve to split things up a bit. So it's not all just go from point A to point B and kill everybody that's there. Occasionally there'll be different goals like, destroy all the pillars that are supporting this tower. Not revolutionary, but enough to keep things unique from level to level and keep you interested. Really, the style of the game is excellent, the gameplay is excellent, and being able to just nail that difficulty level is so hard in these kinds of games. Usually you end up with something that's either so easy it's a cakewalk or something that's just brutal and you've got to play the thing for a week just so you can get past the first boss. Having something that goes back and forth between them is wonderful. Definitely a game that I would give 4 out of 5, and anybody who likes an action-adventure title should really find this one.
Okay, cool. Who makes this game?
Surprisingly, it's made by From Software and published by Sega.
Okay. That's kind of a surprise.
Not somebody you'd expect to be doing a third-person action title.
Well, fair enough.
Or at least one that doesn't have giant robots.
Yeah.
Oh, giant robots.
I know you will.
Next, we're going to go into our classic game reviews, and we only have one this week, and I'm going to be talking about a very obscure Squaresoft role-playing game by the name of SOUKAIGI. Now, before I start, SOUKAIGI was published by Squaresoft before they became Square Enix, and the game was actually developed by Ukes, who are the same people who did the obscure fighting game Aretsvaju, also known as Evil Zone, in this country. The basic story of SOUKAIGI is that a dark act has split Mount Fuji in half and released all these monsters. And you basically control a teenage boy and a bunch of teenage misfits, and you go through and you try and destroy this evil race of creatures known as the Garan. Now, the way this works, and this is actually a third-person action game, is that when you start the game, you have the ability to contain creatures in like orbs. As you contain them in orbs, some characters can only contain like one creature at a time, while some can hold like up to 5 different creatures. Or you can keep putting barriers on top of barriers for the same creatures. And as you do that, the creatures get weaker and you can actually destroy them with fewer hits. And a lot of enemies will leave behind materia. And yes, that is what it is called in the game. And you use the materia to build up your stats between levels. So for example, the main character, as you're playing through the game, he has like a low jump speed, he has a low running speed, he can't jump real high, but as you gain more materia, you can actually build up his stats. And as you also go through the game, you can get more characters, and each character has their own special abilities, and some characters are better in certain situations than other characters. Now, when you get further into the game and you release all these characters, the game gets hard very quickly. And Square isn't really known for a lot of their run and jump type games, and a lot of the platforming in this game is very difficult, and unless you really go after the creatures and get the materia to bring up your stats, it's going to be very, very difficult for you to get very far in the game. You'll find that you're very underpowered, and you may have to go back into older levels to get more materia to actually build up your characters enough where they can survive the level. Now, on top of being able to build up your stats, you also have the ability to cast spells. One of the buttons that you press will actually create a pentagram on the ground, and then you press the circle button a number of times depending on the type of spell you want. So for example, depending on your character's element, say fire, water, whatever, you say cast your pentagram, you hit the circle button like 3 times, they become invincible, or 5 times they get a special ability or whatever, or create a shield, or regain energy, or create a doppelganger, which will cause enemies to go to the doppelganger as opposed to you. Depending, like I said, on your element, certain characters can get their magic at different levels. So for example, say you're a fire, well, your invincibility might be a level 5 as opposed to someone who is like, only 2 to get to their invincibility. Now, you have to actually have talismans to cast magic, and you only have a limited amount of talismans per level. So, for example, if you wanted to heal completely, it uses up 8 talismans. Well, for all characters, you can only hold up to 16. So you have to kind of judge how many talismans you can carry. And on top of that, the amount of talismans you can carry is solely based on how much materia that you've collected. So, for example, if you have got a lot of materia and you've built up your character's stats, you can actually build up the amount of talismans that they're able to carry. You can also build up projectiles and other things like that. On an interesting side note, the music for SOUKAIGI is done by Haruki Kikuta, who is also the composer of the Secret of Mana soundtrack for the Super Nintendo, or known as Seiken Densetsu 2. The game has not aged well. Probably it's like an 8-9-year-old game, and the graphics today look very grainy, and they're not very smooth at all. And the gameplay is a little stiff in playing it again. It's an okay game, and it's a decent platforming style hybrid role-playing game. I wouldn't recommend it for a lot of people because it is not English friendly. In fact, the entire options menu is in kanji, and it's very difficult to get around in the game without at least some rudimentary knowledge of Japanese. So in the end, I'm probably going to have to give SOUKAIGI like a 3.5 out of 5. Definitely not a role-playing game for everyone. It is kind of obscure import and is a little bit hard to find. But for those who like those kind of hybrid games, it might be worth checking out.
Never had a U.S. release, I take it?
No, never had a U.S. release. So one of the many SquareSoft games that did not come out in this country.
Surprise.
Okay, next we have something new. We have a game accessory review. And Brian?
Yeah. Well, I was popping around on the web one day, and everybody does. And I went to Red Octane's website. I was actually looking for another item for a more popular, newer game, and they didn't have it at the time. But I thought I'd look through their selling section to see what else they offered. And I came across this unique little accessory that you use for shooting games. And it's not for all shooting games, grant you. It's only for the Time Crisis series. This is basically a foot pedal, the same as you use in the arcade for Time Crisis. If anybody's ever played Time Crisis in the arcade, it's a basic gun game. But instead of pointing off screen and reloading, you push this pedal down, and it allows you to duck behind something or take cover and reload at the same time. And the unique thing about this that it has over most gun games is by using the pedal, you're not taking your line of sight away from the screen itself. Meaning the instant you let off the pedal, you come right back to where you were pointing, and you have a good shot of, well, you have a good chance of hitting what you were shooting at, a lot easier than pointing your gun off and having to re-aim. And I think this lends a lot more of the feel of the arcade, just as it was when you first played it, if you did play it on the arcade, as opposed to having to play it on the home version where you literally do have to push a button on your gun or point it off screen to reload. Now, this is a basic foot pedal made and designed just for this game, and it's not the highest quality, I'll grant you, but it is pretty sturdy, and it's got a heavy spring in it, and the neat thing is the bottom of it's actually got a solid rubber pad on it, so if you use it on a wooden floor or a solid floor of some type, the pedal won't actually slide. It will stay where you put it. And the gun accessory itself is unique too because it also plugs right into your port 1, and if you play with the gun cons, they plug right into the USB port on your PS2, so it doesn't obstruct anything and it doesn't get in the way of anything, and it basically takes the place of a controller. I played this, and I couldn't pass it up. I mean, it's on their website for $9.99. Granted, you pay about another $9 in shipping, but still, getting a foot pedal that gives you that arcade feel for under $20, and one that actually works really well. And granted, like I said, not the highest quality, but is very sturdily made. I would say it's a great accessory, and it really brought me back into playing the Time Crisis games because, and although it's nice to be able to play it on a home console, it just didn't quite feel exactly like it did the first time in the arcade. And that foot pedal gave it just another, a little more sense of what it was that you were playing when you first popped in the corner and picked up your gun and went on a spree. So I would highly recommend this to anybody that's into bonus accessories, especially if you like gun games, and especially if you enjoy playing the oddball things and just getting a little more of the arcade feel. And you can't beat the price. They dropped it from $30 down to $9.99. It really is a worthy purchase to jump on, and I'm sure they have a limited stock. So I don't know if you give this a high rating. I don't know if you would rate it personally like you do a video game, but I think it's just a fun accessory, and it's well worth the price.
Okay, and this foot pedal, it only works with Time Crisis, or can it work with
that's
other
basically
games?
what it was designed to do was Time Crisis. I haven't tested on all other shooters, so I can't say per se if it works with other shooters, but I know with this specifically, it is designed for the Time Crisis series.
Okay.
So
and it's a third party. So far, yeah.
Okay.
It's a great accessory.
All right, cool. All right. Well, is there anything else that we need to add before we close up shop for the night?
Just turn the open sign off.
Yeah, and I have to check the till and make sure to run the batch, but that's about it.
Well, other than that, let's get on to the begging people to email us part.
Ah, yes. You have been listening to Diehard Gamer Radio. As always, you can email us at diehardgamerradio@gmail.com or visit our website at www.diehardgamerradio.com. So, from John, Brian, and myself, you have once again been listening to three guys who know a lot about video games and not much else.